in the book Our Daily Bread. Think a little. The works I do in my Father's name bear witness of me, Jesus. The concern of ordinary individuals regarding family traditions and the earthly institutions to which they are attached themselves is commonplace, as is their taking pride in the conventional titles that identify who they are as persons. However, in the life that is real, no one is known by such things. Each spirit brings with it the living history of its own deeds, and only the works it has accomplished will reveal each spirit's worth or merit. By this, we do not mean that words do not have their undeniable advantages. Nonetheless, one must understand that words are also profound potential, received from the infinite goodness as a divine resource. Thus, it is crucial for us to know for certain what we are doing with this gift from the eternal Lord. In this respect, Jesus' statement is cloaked with the imperishable beauty. What would we say about a Savior who set rules for humankind without having shared in its problems and obstacles? Christ began his divine mission among peasants. He lived among the irascible doctors of the law and rebellious sinners. He associated with the sick and the afflicted. He ate the hard bread of humble fishermen and finished up his holy work between two thieves. What are you hoping for? If you're waiting for an easy life and situations of prominence in the world, remember the Master and think a little.
As we are about to start our study today, as always, we start with our internal reflections. Maybe join closing our physical eyes. As immortal beings as we all are, gathered in the assembly, prepared by the enlightened beings who anticipated us. May we choose to disconnect from this external reality and open ourselves from within. As divine beings as we all are, essentially beings of goodness, of light and love, brothers and sisters in humanity, incarnate and all of those in the spirit where we are, united through the law of love, as learners of ourselves, as learners of the natural laws in the universe, as we are gathering together under the light of Jesus, blessed by the enlightened beings, we start our study today. So be it. Maybe you all feel welcomed in this study group where we are all students and learning about the natural laws of life. We are within the chapter, the Spirits book, which we are studying for quite some time, is a continue week after week, and reminding ourselves that we are all learners. We are under the chapter Hopes and Consolations, and we are about to start the subtitle today, Future Joys and Sorrows, where we are carrying on the nature of future joys and sorrows on the question 965. As I mentioned, we are all students. Everyone is welcome to ask questions, to participate, to bring their collaboration as well. And when we refer to the subtitle, the nature of future joys and sorrows, what comes to our minds? We, as immortal beings, trying to understand a bit more about the universal laws, now hearing that the nature of future joys and sorrows, what that brings to us.
What to expect after the death of the physical body?
Okay, what I can expect after I free myself from the physical body. Once we understand there is no death as such, but only the physical body that we free ourselves. But as spirits as we are, we carry on through our perispirit, through the spiritual body. So what depends that I may be in a joyful or sorrowful experience after my liberation of the physical body? What depends that I will be in a joyful state of mind or in a sorrowful?
Choices made while we are on earth.
The choices that I made while on earth. Which kind of choices? Anyone? Any kind of choice?
I might choose to carry on with my vices or choose to become a better person.
Okay, so it really refers to our free will. As immortal beings, unique beings in the universe, everyone is using the free will, and according to use the free will, we will be later on having a joyful state of mind or sorrowful. Yes, that clear? Let's go through then the question which helps us to deepen a bit more the understanding. Question 965, it says, is there anything material about the joys and sorrows of the soul after death? What do we understand about soul? Do we have different definitions about soul on earth? Do we have different definitions?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And what are those definitions? Allan Kardec explained them in the introduction of the Spiritist book, isn't it?
We have a few, but the one that he said he's going to use in this book is the one that says we are spirits, but once we reincarnate, we are the body called spirit soul.
Okay. Okay. So here we are referring to soul as a spirit. We are all immortal beings as spirits, but when we are reincarnated to differentiate our state, refers to soul, which means the same thing, yes? Therefore, what is the question about? Is there anything material about the joys and sorrows of the soul after death? It's a good question, isn't it? If we are freeing ourselves from the physical body, which is material, therefore, is there anything material after that? In our joys and sorrows?
Could be the experiences.
The experiences. What do you mean by that?
Like learned, or could be material.
Let's see what the enlightened spirits are telling us. They cannot be material since the soul is not matter. Let's explore phrase by phrase. So what do we understand by that? They cannot be material since the soul is not matter. I wonder what was behind Allan Kardec's rationale when he raised this question. Do we have an idea? We cannot read his mind, but we can learn to read between lines. What is it?
The material that he means is a physical body, right?
I don't know what he means. I think he raised that question. Bear in mind that the Spiritist book was written 160 years ago. So on that state, although today as well, but there and there, we were much more materialistic. Our viewpoints was much more based on a materialistic reality or of corporeal existence. So he is challenging. So when we look from this perspective where we are, is there anything material after that? Because do we have joyful, sorrow states of mind on earth based on matter? Yes. A lot of our pleasures are based on matter. And when we free ourselves from the physical body, that doesn't exist. So I think he's asking or challenging us to look beyond the physicality. Okay? And then, yes, common sense says so. There is nothing carnal about future joys and sorrows. And that is why they are 1,000 times more vivid than those experienced on earth. What is that teaching us? Or how do we understand that reference? There is nothing carnal about future joys and sorrows. My question is, why not?
If we learn that we are this essence, that we are the soul, as he is referring. So the experiences is on a kind of emotional level and psychological level, is things that relates to our spirit and the state of mind that we are after we leave the body. So that what comes to me, that it's how I perceive things will carry on with me, although I don't have the sensation or the experiences of material. But whatever I believe and I live through, I will carry on with me after that. And if I am having some kind of experience that is painful, I can relieve that painful experiences for a long time after being attached from the actually the body itself.
Correct. Yes, because the attachment is referring to the psychological and emotional dimension of ourselves. Yes, and therefore, even when we free ourselves from the physical body, we carry on with those references. Anybody else? And then they carry on. Once disengaged from matter, the spirit is more impressionable. Matter no longer weakens its sensitivity. Are we freer, in general speaking, because we freed ourselves from the physical body? Yes?
Yes or no?
No. Why yes, why no?
We can feel more intensely because we don't have the distractions of having a body, and we experience more as a spirit in that sense, but we are not totally free because as we learn, we are actually always involved by so many laws that is beyond physical world.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
I think it depends on our level of evolution as well.
Why it depends on our level of evolution.
We might leave the body within the body, but still very attached to matter, so it might not be as free. Or we might only receive what we perceive to where we are in the body.
Could also be because we understand that we are all unique beings, and therefore, depending where we are, developed psychologically, emotionally, therefore spiritually here on earth, when we free ourselves from the physical body, nothing will change. If I'm a spirit who is very, very attached to matter, very attached to things, to people, therefore I free myself from the physical body, but spiritually I will still be attached to matter, to earth. Is that making sense? Because on earth, there are 3-4 times more disincarnated spirits than incarnate ones. And all of those who are here, they are attached to those values that we are here to free ourselves from. Yeah? Okay? Then move on now to the next question. Cynthia, read it for us, please. 966.
Why do human beings have such crude and absurd ideas about the joys and sorrows of the future life?
Okay, let's explore now the question. How do we understand the question today? Why do human beings have such crude and absurd ideas about the joys and sorrows of future life? That is a question referred directly to us who are in the flesh, isn't it? Human beings. Such a crude and absurd idea about the joys and sorrows.
It's because the years, like the cultures and the years since the beginning before Christ, before Jesus. So many religions and beliefs that people say which they really don't know what they think is the correct thing, or is the figure speech.
Okay, let's imagine in the past, through history, which kind of beliefs did we also believe in relation to future life?
We would think that, well, we were taught, and we taught as well, that we would leave this leave earth and or die, and then we would be in eternal bliss on the clouds, doing nothing and enjoying the glory. And or for others would be so dreadful and so cruel to believe that if you done something not quite by the books, you would perish in fire forever and ever.
So we are referring to hell and heaven, isn't it? In that restrict way that either you go there in a cloudy state, which you do nothing, but you are really blissful. It would be very boring from where we are understanding now, or you burn forever in the hell, which is not for you. Let's see, before I start to say here. Because their intelligence is not yet sufficiently developed. Does the child comprehend in the same way as the adult? Besides, it also depends on how they have been taught. That is the point at which there is the most need for reform. So what do we understand? Because our understanding expands as we evolve in relation to the teachings of the Enlightened Spirits in this question. Because their intelligence is not yet sufficiently developed. How do we understand it?
The way I understand it, I cannot conceive something I haven't got knowledge, I haven't got an idea of. So the goodness of the afterlife, or the beauty of the afterlife for those who have already accomplished with their sorry, with their work, with their development, is not something I can imagine, because I don't have means to think of that. My ideas would be very material in a point to make comparison.
Okay. Are we all intelligent beings in the universe?
Yes, we are created as like our essence is divine, so we are created. We are intelligent principles. We learn good doctrine, so we are evolving as creatures. We have the stage in many places as what in the doctrine they learn to be the intelligent principle, and now we have that evolved, but not totally to understand the things of spiritual knowledge.
Okay. So we have been created simple and ignorant as intelligent principles in the universe, and start to develop ourselves since the kingdom of mineral, vegetable, animal, human. Here we are. Now, no longer as intelligent principles, but intelligent beings. We are only not yet that much intelligent in relation to the natural laws. Let's put it that way. We are learning, yeah?
I believe we are still, as we always study here, very at the beginning. So
Yeah.
for us to have an understanding of the divine living, of the how to be, it's still very far for us to be able to comprehend.
But what do we need to do in this stage where we are? Because at the end of the day, we are about 2,000 years already on Earth, and going and coming back, and we are in the reason era. So what do we need to do to really develop our intelligence? Or is that coming from external aspects that I don't need to do anything?
No, I believe it's once we be able to overcome our instincts, to use our rational understanding towards doing good and choosing the good, not just for me, but that will result in good for everyone, even if it's not so good for me. Once I'm able to achieve this, then I will be developing this intelligence, because I will be using my powers, my intelligence, into preventing myself from doing something that can bring responsibilities to me that would affect everyone in a bad way, let's say.
Is the intelligence an attribute of the spirit? Yes. So, carry on.
Say yes, it is why. Okay, we are intelligent beings, as we have said before, and we are evolving emotionally and intellectually. So, with the experiences that present ourselves, we are making short choices, using our free will to act in our
To learn,
yeah.
to learn, to interact within the experiences, and in that way we are developing our free will, as you said, and more we understand about the natural laws, not because someone told us, but now we are in an era that we learn to think for ourselves, because we need to stimulate this faculty given by God to us. And then as more as we comprehend, more we discern, and then we develop ourselves towards being intelligent in relation to the natural laws in the universe. Because intellectually, we are quite evolved, isn't it? Intellectually evolved means that being developed our intelligence? No, because we are quite advanced in our intellectual advancement, but not necessarily intelligent. Why not? Because we trained intellectually, conquered a lot of knowledge, but what is missing?
The use of it.
The use, how we apply it, isn't
We
it?
understand it in a rational level,
Cognitive.
but we're not able yet to apply that.
Why not?
I believe it's laziness a little, but why not? Um,
What impedes us to apply what we learn?
I think a lot of things. I can't think of one thing in itself when you asked that. What came to me was all the virtues that we need to develop in order to balance.
So if you haven't developed those, what did we develop then? Because it's 2,000 years. There's a lot of time. So what did we learn? What did we develop then? What are the blockage points? Let's put it in a different way that we can get there. Huh? The ego. And what is specific about the ego? Because the ego in itself could be very good, as long as supervised by the self, isn't it? Selfishness and pride. Because we already trained our free will, didn't we? It's impossible not to have learned something throughout 2,000 years and something. We learned a lot. But we were driven by selfishness and pride. We developed, let's say, our shadows. Because we used the free will, but in an irresponsible way. Or we used the free will outside the natural principles that balance ourselves. Therefore, here we are now, quite intelligent. But yet, we are not applying it in our favor. Why not? Because we developed the intellectual intelligence and the emotional intelligence is here. So now we need to go and help the inner baby to grow emotionally, that we unblock ourselves emotionally, and then we learn to think in a more clear way according to the natural ways.
For me, it's still hard to understand this, even in this way, because every time you say we are intelligent, we have developed intelligently, and I think we are very stupid, we're not intelligent.
Very ignorant. Share with us. Very ignorant.
We know what we need to be peace, to be happy, to have an easy life.
To be healthy.
We don't do it.
Yes.
We know what we need
because we are ignorant.
To have health, and then we go and do everything.
Not just ignorance, Denise, anymore. I think the greatest problem for us is selfishness and pride. Because we do know what to do. We have the capacity to reason, to know what is good for us on intellectual level, but we don't know what that means on the emotional level. Why not? Because we haven't lived that. Each time when we are in experience, we choose to go with the old me, the ego, and then we reinforce pride and selfishness, and we become weak instead of stronger emotionally. Because knowledge is not just learning through the intellectual mind, it also needs to go via the emotional level. So our weak point is not to apply on daily existence what we already know, what is good for us. So we still are a bit, let's be generous with us, a bit eluded. Yeah.
You know, studying, talking about it here, it seems so clear. But when I face situations throughout the days, and I can even rationalize at the moment, this is not what I want to do, that's not how I want to say or how I want to act. And still I let the emotions overcome my rationality. And then I still struggling not to be punishing myself or going into that circle of why I did what, but trying to accept that I'm still at this level and I have still to work out with these eruptions that come in the moments and things that I am still not able yet to educate them at the moment. But the more I get that knowledge and the more I perceive that emotion when they start and where they come from, it becomes more clear for me how I can work that one, because it's still very strange for me.
Yes, it is very strange, very unnatural. Because we haven't put ourselves in those new experiences and we are quite scary. The ego part of us is scary to letting go what we always did. But there is no evolution if we carry on doing always the same. So we need to learn to allow ourselves to get out of the comfort zone. Let's just see how it goes. I'm not dying. I can even articulate it myself. Sophie, my God, I'm dying. No, I won't die. I'm eternal. I just carry on. But let's get out of the comfort zone. And then we learn. You said, I cannot learn. We are in a process of learning. Every little tiny step that we allow ourselves to do, that helps us towards the next step. What we need to observe is our self-critic, because that is a blockage point. That means we are dealing with our perfectionism. We want to be better than we are, and then we get stuck. We need to learn to accept ourselves as we are, loving beings who are learning, and then we learn, doing mistakes and getting right. So that loving way of addressing ourselves, it opens our psychic channels as well. Yeah? Okay. Are you clear here?
Yeah, I believe, once I be able to do that more often with myself, it will be easier for me to relate with others in that way as well.
Precisely. With the others, always this tension how we are relating with us. As more as flexible we become with us, we also have that on the external reality. Yeah? Where did I stop? I can't remember. Was it the first phrase? Yes? Okay. So carry on then. Does the child comprehend in the same way as the adult? It's interesting, the analogy that they put it here for us to see, yes? Of course, with a child does not comprehend what the adult means. That means we can also bring that back to our inner child. If we follow the need of the child, doesn't understand what real life means to us from the adult perspective. So we need to help ourselves here. Besides, it also depends on how they have been taught. That is the point at which there is most need for reform. What do we understand by that? It also depends on how they have been taught. They means us.
Yeah. Today I was watching a study, and she reminded of the story of the dog that sat on the nail and was crying. The dog moved because it wasn't painful enough for him to move, just for him to cry. And I think this is how we learn. The position I am now feels maybe uncomfortable, but it's an uncomfortable I know. And I'm afraid to move from that and maybe go to, let's say, the dog, into more nails than one. And then I just sit there, bearing that pain,
And cry.
without and crying, asking, help me, but I stay here without doing anything. And to think that if I do one movement, I would be free and I would be able to, use more of everything I have and get off of that pain. And then I question, why don't we do this? Why don't we push ourselves into?
It's because of our limited, incorrect belief systems that we bring within through centuries and centuries of experiences that we went through. Even unconsciously, we conditioned ourselves. And even unconsciously now, we believe in it.
Yeah.
We believe. We are still a bit blind, let's say. That is the effort that the Enlightened Spirits are constantly inviting us to carry on, is study and self-study and learn to reflect for ourselves so that we become more aware of who we really are. Because as Jung said, who you are, who think you are is the top of the iceberg, but who you really are is what it is. And we need to emerge in this darkness.
Yeah.
And bring light into it and make sense and renew, as they say, that needs to reform. We need to reform our belief systems. We need to actualize our belief systems.
Yeah. Every more we study and I see things that I bring in, the way I think, that I didn't even know I thought it that way. And sometimes something makes sense and I go like, oh, I think this, that's why I do like this. And then it comes to me, the automatization we create. Like now I walk and I don't think how I step forward, but I had to think of that when I started. So all these things that they are still inside me and they are strange. I have no knowledge of what I'm bringing because everything it comes up a little. It's just as I said, it's a little bit, and I already want to be perfect on that because I found out.
We still have a long journey, but the important is that we are becoming more self-aware and we're choosing freely now to invest in our self-awareness and also freely choosing to become better, to now choose to apply what we are learning because we are more conscious now than ever. Although we still are quite unconscious, but now we are more conscious than centuries back. That's quite hopeful. Well, anyway, we are in the chapter Hopes and Consolations. Anything else? Can we move on? Then let's move on to the next one. Okay, sorry, is there still the note? Continue on the question 966. Your language is too incomplete to express what exists beyond your reach. Thus, it has been necessary to make comparisons and you have taken such images and figures as reality itself. However, as people become more enlightened, they better comprehend the things that their language cannot express. So what do we take from this? As responsible for our own enlightenment, for our own evolution, for our own progress, what do we learn by that?
It's interesting because the initial question was about how we have a misconception of what is joy and sorrow after death. And that all brings us to this reflection on how we are actually living now, isn't it? And then he's entering how we have this difficulty in expressing ourselves, never mind understanding what is really inside ourselves.
We still are hooked on the words,
Yeah.
death, end. But it's not so. Yes, it's true. Your language is too incomplete, so they are referring, at least the way that I understand, don't get slaved by the words. Learn to think beyond the words, and that means expanding our hearts and minds. Then we can read beyond that, and we all can do it. Why? No, but when it doesn't work, I need to have the words. So how do I do that? I remind Chiara now that she always said, please draw it for me. What else is coming up to us here? How do we become more enlightened?
Oh my gosh, as you said, we need to flexibilize our thinking, our way of being, studying, and being open for things in a different way. It reminds me of what Kardec says in his books. When science comes and brings in proof enough that what we've been having here is wrong, leave this doctrine and go with science. Because if they are able to overcome this, because time has changed, has passed. And it's not that I'm bringing this knowledge to say, don't look at nothing that science brings because it's wrong. It's just they are still very far behind developing, and we are having this opportunity to know things further. But one day, all of what we know now as the right will may be very different. So there is no truth for us at the point we are now. There is no certainty, I want to say.
There is a truth, but not in a rigid, fixed understanding that we may say that is so.
Yeah.
Because everything is mutable.
Yeah.
And even for us within Spiritism, the enlightened spirits continue to express ourselves that they just presented the first page. Yeah. So as much as we study and become flexible, we know that is natural in the universe. Where are we learning in the universe? In which stage? Planet, trials and expiations, which is very in the beginning, when we consider the celestial planets. So that is understandable. But when we take the advantage now and study more, we are promoting ourselves within the understanding. Doesn't matter if we are in the field of science, human science or not, but we are certainly, all of us, within studying the divine science.
Every new discover, I believe, it helps us to understand a bit more about ourselves and how we can relate better with others. Like I have the old gospel at home, and when I read it, there are lots of things. When I hear Haroldo explaining the gospel, he brings a different meaning. He brings a more open meaning that makes more sense for things for me. It becomes more doable for me the way he explains some things, and I understand it better. And then I think, if I just study from my old book with those old words and old way of seeing it, I would be stuck there without understanding what is helping me to see through. So I believe this openness that I'm not able to do with everything yet, every point of life, it's what holds me back from doing the reforms I need to do.
I think once we are willing to evolve and invest in that, we always have ways that will happen. Because language, books, they are all part of the changing process. I always like when Haroldo says, well, the way that I teach or lecture now may sound very whatever, but in a couple of years that is out of date. Somebody else comes up who knows more, who has a different way of teaching, different way of presenting, that's much more. That is part of evolution. So it's not that he is wrong, it's just a way that he is the best that he can do now. Evolution, others come with new understanding and do better than we do, and we all learn from it. Clear? Okay.
To add to that is the self-learning also.
The self-learning.
Yeah.
What
to
do
reach that stage, because you can have everything outside. You can study years. You can give your life, and you don't even know yourself, so you don't listen to the point.
Yes, I think the self-study is important because otherwise I can also become like, through repetition, somehow we fix the knowledge, but it doesn't mean understanding. I can repeat about things. Yes.
Understanding and reading.
Then I won't be able. I can talk about things because I memorized, but I don't understand what they mean on a deeper level because I didn't introject that within myself. Yes. Self-knowledge is very important because that also helps us to, is when we study, we can comprehend beyond the words. Yeah. Are we okay? Now we move to the question 967. Claudinista, read it for us, please.
What does the happiness of good spirits consist of?
How could we refer with our own words what this question means? What does the happiness of good spirits consist of? How could we reframe it? Of course, when they refer the question, good spirits means they are not so good, but here we are about the goods. So how could we reframe it in a different way? What does the happiness of good spirits consist of?
What brings happiness to the good spirits?
Okay.
What's the yes, I can't
What
feel
comes
it.
to me is what pleases good spirits. Let's see what we learn. I don't know if I'm right. In knowing all things. Simple. Can we see the difference here in level of evolution? In knowing all things. What do we understand by that? Understand that we are immortal beings, we are unique beings in the universe. That means knowing everything in the universe. So what pleases us here on earth? Does that make sense? We can even fall almost like, oh, fading. In feeling no hatred, jealousy, envy, ambition, or any of the passions that make people unhappy.
Yeah, that's more understandable.
Up here.
Up there is the one.
Are we already completely free from hatred? Yeah, jealousy, envy, ambition, or any of the passions. They are not saying one of them, any. So what do we read between lines of these words that the enlightened spirits are giving us like a direction, but how we can train or at least start to train ourselves where we are. Although we are at the beginning of our journey, but we are not so on the primitive level. We can choose now, we can learn. So what can I learn here in terms of building my own happiness as immortal being?
Goes back what Tamara was saying, self-knowledge, to invest in getting to know ourselves. Because then, if I understand how I operate inside, and then I can understand the others around me, I can extend compassion, and I can start from the virtues that we learn, that we will be humble to see that my mistakes I have done in the past, now this brother or sister is doing it right now, and I will look in that way, in a lighter way, and more loving way to the others. That's one step. So first of all, referring to ourselves, looking for this me, to understand the others, and then I will be able to engage with the universal laws and develop virtues, and then I will get to a point where slowly I will develop myself into a good spirit.
Okay. Something came to my mind. In knowing all things, what can we learn here about ourselves in reaching that level? Would it be right in saying in developing love towards learning? You mentioned laziness. I need to study. Oh, I don't like it. No, then I may recognize my laziness or my limitations and choose in a loving way to train myself. Because how do I learn to love learning? Studying. But I don't like. Then I sit there to read and then I immediately think something else. and off I go. Then I come back again, then I go again. No, that is distraction. That is indiscipline. Focus. So I try to learn to discipline my mind, knowing that I'm an immortal being, that I need to learn and will learn throughout my journey everything in the universe. So if I keep my laziness, I need to come back again in the same point where I am. But learning means developing the law in terms of study. Everything in our existence is habit, habits. And as more as we open ourselves in a loving way, it's easier also to comprehend and to retain the information. Because we know we learn profoundly when we engage emotionally with the experience. Yeah?
For me, what it brings is be patient with yourself and start. Do whatever you can do, as much as you can do, because it seems so far, far, far away, this knowledge. When I've been living for myself as a, for the body I have now, I know so little about my own body in a physical way, like how the legs work, how the system all work. My knowledge is I need a doctor to help me with things, or I need someone else to help me with what I'm feeling in the body that I can even describe properly because I don't understand. And then thinking on the emotional level, the cognitive level, that all the things I bring within me, I have no understanding, no knowledge, as we was just talking about. Well, if I start thinking this, I believe that is impossible. I'm never going to get there. But once we have the example that they know all the things, not just about the body or the life here, but the whole universe that you brought. So that's a lot of work, that's a lot of understanding, a lot of studying. And so the more I can do now, it means
better for the next moment.
Yeah.
But we need to also observe on limited conversation that we have, oh God, that I will never learn that. That is not true. Because we are immortal beings, we are beings who are under the law of progress and evolution. That means progress and evolution means change. Although I may think that we never learn that, which is a lie, I will learn because we are all on this process guided by the law of God. Thank God. You mentioned the body. Yes, we do know a little bit about our body, if you do, but majority we don't. And thank God that we still are guided by the divine force, which is love. Because imagine if you need to activate every system in the right moment in your body. would be a collapse. We can see the inner wisdom when we start to think about, yeah? And we don't need to do anything. Thank God and not, yeah?
Is it possible to know something before we feel it?
Karima, it is possible to know something before we feel it.
Is it possible to know something before we feel it?
I think, yes. The way that we understand it is that we learn things through three pathways, the rational and the emotional level. So I can know to some extent something here, but I may not know it on the emotional dimension. And as more as we evolve, because the both pathway or the both dimensions will go gradually together, then we go deeper into the understanding of whatever we are learning.
So you only know something when you feel it emotionally.
I think then we are talking about on the deeper level. Because for us to understand, let's say, patient, it's easy on intellectual level, isn't it? Keep quiet, be gentle. But when we are then on the experience, then comes all the old me, on the emotion. But when we choose now to re-educate ourselves through the action, through the behavior, then I'm learning on the emotion. Is that what you mean?
I'm only saying it because it says ignoble things in feeling no hatred, no jealousy. It's saying that we shouldn't feel these things, but in order to come to peace with them, we have to feel them.
We feel and we will eradicate those passions.
So it's not you shouldn't feel. You have to feel them for you not to feel.
I think what the spirits mean here is because we still are so enslaved by our feelings, the primitive feelings which they refer here. And when they say in feeling no hatred, means that we already overcome these primitive emotional states within, as we learned in our understanding, since the kingdom from the animal kingdom where we are coming from. And now we are using the rational side and helping to restructure our behavior throughout our living. And in that way, we are reintegrating, we are promoting the emotional intelligence using the rational side.
But if you use the rational side, it still needs to be completed by the emotional
Yes.
side. So you have to feel the feelings.
You feel, but you
To-
don't validate it anymore.
Yeah, to reintegrate.
Precisely. We think sometimes there are two things separate, but they aren't. As more as we study deeper, we understand that the roots of our thoughts, they are based on our emotional side. Everything?
It's hard to understand like what he was saying, because if I feel the hatred or the jealousy, how can I know that and not feel that but understand? But if we think that the hatred is the misplace of love, if I can use this way to say, or
Could
the
be.
jealousy is it's a virtue that is built in me because I chose that way in the wrong way. But once I am able to develop the virtues and they are flourished in me and they are automatized more than the way I am still now. But when I develop all of these virtues literally and I become them, then I won't have place for this anymore because they would have passed.
Yes, because when we talk about hatred, anger, or whatever it is, I am right to say that we are referring to our primitive, instinctive behaviors, which were part of our evolution pathway. Can we imagine how we were in the animal kingdom? When we were lions? Yeah? So we bring that, that reference with it. It's part of the instinctive memory from our past pathways of evolution, that now that we are in the reason era, we use the reason to re-educate ourselves. Because there we were based on the instinct level. And quite, let's say, how we reacted there was quite right. Was quite right. But it's not right anymore now. Yeah? Is that making sense?
If you don't label feeling when you are annoyed, anger, if you don't label it as hatred, it's just a very annoying feeling. It's not a problem if you don't label it. I think when you label it, then you add something else to it. It's just that you have to allow yourself to feel it.
In the way that we understand through self-knowledge, we need to learn to understand what we are feeling. How we are feeling? Bad. What do you mean by that? Bad. But what is that for you? Bad. So still, what is that showing to me? That is showing that my self-awareness is on a very global level. I still don't know the different reference of this mechanism. And when we say to give name, to know, to differentiate, is not for us to give labels or to identify ourselves with. Is to understand the different aspects of our totality. Then we work it through gradually. That is part, for us to free ourselves from these feelings here, it still will not be possible everything on this existence. Because we are training ourselves gradually to promote our emotional intelligence, where we are promoting the same instinctive force there, which is part of evolving gradually, that we reach in the pinnacle in the future with higher sentiments. But we now are in a stage that we are doing that. When we were in the primitive state in the animal kingdom, that still was a movement based on the instincts in a natural level.
I mean, I find it, if it's something uncomfortable, it's just a resistance within you.
Yes.
If you can be with it, it goes. So you can label it what you want, but ultimately it's just a resistance.
Yes. Yes, I need to become aware. If I hate, what is that about me? And then I notice that in different situations where I am, because in reality, the way that we understand, no one external to me or neither anything is causing that feeling to me. It's me who are having that response in relation to whatever is there. And then through self-awareness, if I become aware, I can, if I don't, I can learn to have the power from the self level onwards to restructure that in a loving way. Are we okay here? Okay, then. Let's move on to the following comments, still in the question 967. Moreover, the happiness of a spirit is always in proportion to their progress. Actually, only the pure spirits enjoy supreme happiness. However, this does not mean the others are unhappy. Between the bad ones and the perfected ones, there is infinity of gradations, and in which enjoyments are proportionate to their moral state. Those who are already sufficiently advanced understand the happiness of those who have reached that stage before them, and they aspire to it. But for them, it is a reason for emulation and not jealousy. They know that it depends on their own efforts to reach it, and they labor towards that end with the calmness of a pure conscience. They are happy at no longer having to suffer what is endured by the bad spirits. What do we learn now with this paragraph?
I understood what
Speak a bit louder, please.
I understood that you mean when we are at that level, which is the good spirit, the happiness, is when you reach that love, that the meaning of what Jesus came here to show us, what God wants from us, which is the best, how He created us, and to overcome, to pass our lower choices, let's say that.
I feel you.
And when you look at your next, when you look at your brother or any other person, you would feel happiness to see that person happy, to see that person progressing, to see anything that is good happening with any other person. So you forget about yourself, and you feel happy and love and every single feelings about the others, and that completes.
That fulfills.
Yeah,
Yes.
not
Precisely.
only you as a person anymore,
Precisely.
as you part of everything and everyone.
Because we resource ourselves on the emotional level within the natural laws of life, so much so that we can vibrate towards the success of other people. And if I'm not there yet, instead of feeling jealous, as we saw previously, I can stimulate myself also to get there. Not in the same way because we're unique, but stimulate myself, to motivate myself, to put efforts into, and to break my own limitations that I built so far.
Yeah. It reminds me of the teaching.
Rosanda?
Yeah. When he was giving an example of a woman that was jealous of a colleague from school. And I thought, if we can bring this understanding to us in all levels, not just the jealousy, but the hatred, the aggressive reactions, and we can see what is ill in that feeling we are having in that moment, and look for the good side of it, and exercise and develop that good side, then it will be much easier for us to deal with ourselves in relating to the things. It will help us to a step forward in an easier way, instead of losing time being jealous or whatever other instinct.
So what do we need to learn in order to follow that path? Because this is a waste of time to be jealous.
Yeah,
So
I believe first I need to know what I'm feeling and accept, like he said, in a way, I have to understand this is what I'm feeling. I'm being jealous.
okay,
And I need that.
and accept that I'm jealous. What do we need to learn?
Recognize and then do the helpful.
But what do we need to learn to recognize? Because
Oh.
everyone may say you are jealous of anything. We say no, not me. Could that happen? So what do I need to learn then in order that not has to happen? Would it be rather say humbleness? In order to recognize our own limitations, our own shadows, and embrace them and then transcend them, is the way when we learn to be humble. Because when the pride predominates, we don't accept that we may be in that way.
Or we may just have no knowledge of it.
Yeah.
As first time you brought to me that some reactions I had was proudness. I was like, I'm not proud. I had a misunderstanding of proudness, of being proud, or even the actual word what it was. And once you face that, you think, no, no. And if I don't go and learn about it and then learn myself, then I don't recognize it. If I don't recognize, I don't make efforts to change.
It's the other, it's not me. Always bear in mind, in a loving way, everything is within, the negative and the positive. Whatever is negative is ignorance, whatever it is, we can enlighten ourselves. And Jung, I like what Jung said. You don't give rid of your shadows to talking about light. You need to enlighten yourself, bring light to the shadows. Question 968 says, you place the absence of material needs among the conditions of happiness for spirits. But isn't the satisfaction of those needs a source of enjoyment for humans? Intelligent question from Allan Kardec, isn't it? But what does it mean? How do we understand it? So it's almost like we are saying that the absence of material needs is the condition for happiness of the superior spirits, yeah? But then he carries on, but isn't the satisfaction of those needs a sort of enjoyment for humans? Is it? Again, we can see where we are in our scale of evolution and motivate ourselves to advance. They say, yes, the gratification of their animal passions. When they cannot satisfy those needs, it is a torture. Which kind of needs that if we cannot satisfy is a torture for people outside?
Hunger,
What? Hunger?
depending on the level we are, it's a piece of cake.
Piece of cake, yes, I can cry and struggle because I don't have the piece of cake like little children, yes? If I don't have the money to go on holiday, everybody goes on holiday, I get desperate. What else?
I think you can have everything but not be attached to it.
Yes.
So it's not.
Then I'm free.
It's not a problem when you realize you have a problem, someone takes it away from you, and then you feel different. So it's not that you don't have to have it. It's how your relationship to it.
It's how is our relationship with ourselves in relation to. If my relationship with myself is very physical, material, then my relationship with the material aspects is very, very important. And if I don't have it, I really get desperate. But as more as we become independent psychologically and emotionally from, which is a natural process through maturation, through the evolution process, we have it or not, that is secondary. If we have it, we can enjoy it without attachment, without selfishness or whatever it is. We just enjoy it, but we are not suffering. That's just to think not having it gets us in a depressed state of mind. So it is actually referring to the inner freedom that we build through our evolution path in choosing to become intelligent in the deeper sense, using our free will and engaging with the experiences and things and people in a, let's say, freer way, understanding that nothing and no one belongs to us. So if I'm in a situation that I may have financial resources, I can enjoy, and surely I will not enjoy on the physical level as much as a selfish person does, because I may use my resources to help the collective being more. That is more fulfilling for the soul, because our necessities, they change through our evolution. Is that right what I'm saying? Yeah. And in that way, we are coming to the end today. We'll carry on next week on these questions. And as always, as we are coming to the end, within our final reflections, through these studies, understanding ourselves as immortal beings, loving beings that are evolving and progressing in the universe. With our reflections that has been presented to all of us, with our hearts full of joy and happiness, to realize that we are already where we are, also recognizing the progress achieved. And that way we express our gratitude towards the Creator, towards Jesus, towards the enlightened beings who love us, who care about us, who invite all of us to advance, to progress, to continue to study, to continue to reflect about, and above all, to choose to live according to the natural laws in the universe. Feeling the blessings of the enlightened beings upon every each member, with our hearts filled with joy and love towards ourselves and towards others. We continue our journey day by day, moment by moment. So, next week we still have next Wednesday.